right. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the final part of our streaming for the Mania 7 Key World Cup 2025. We've gotten through all 16 matches, all 32 teams you got to watch have a great time and put on a show for us. But all that's left now is to see the map pool that they will be playing against each other with next week. All 32 teams still left standing. 16 of them fighting for their lives in the losers bracket, and they'll use this map pool that we're about to show you. I'm Toph Daddy, one of your commentators, joined by map selector Tails. DK, how's it going?
Hi, I'm so excited once again. This week we had a lot of cool matches, as we said, and now next week we're really gonna get into some interesting matches because we do have the losers bracket. So some teams are gonna have to fight for their tournament run here next week, and these will be the maps for it. It will be a little bit harder than last week, as expected.
Right, yeah.
We're gonna see a little bit of, mostly the same format, just a bit harder maps. So, yeah, let's start by getting into the first one, I think.
Yeah, we can get into the first map. We'll have the same structure of the Mappool Showcase as last week, where we'll do all the Rice, then the LNs, then the hybrids. Well, I guess last week we did it the other way around, but this week we'll do Rice, then LNs, and hybrids. We're starting with Rice 1, Shine by 7. I don't know how to pronounce that artist's name. I would say 7-7, but this is going to be our speed pick. Very comparable to the Rice one from the previous round. The main difference, there's two main differences. It doesn't start off with the first half being mostly kind of slow breaks. You can see we're already getting into some pretty constant streaming here, and the BPM's bumped up by 25, so you get a little bit of heavier difficulty, higher density, and in my opinion, these patterns are a lot harder than last week's.
Yeah, this one is definitely gonna be a lot more tricky to play. This one is gonna be more into the speed. Last week it was more like fast court stream, but this time it's actually gonna be real speed here.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see that the streams are also lasting longer for the most part. There's 3 pretty distinct sections that you can probably mirror back and forth, where it's just 16 measures straight of just streaming at 255 BPM. You do see a couple of doubles thrown in there, but not quite like we saw from last week. So this will definitely be one of those cases where it'll play like you're doing single streams, just a little bit faster than 255.
Yeah, we did also actually have to include an extra break in the song when we were, because it was actually too stamina intensive. So these breaks really, you really need them when playing.
Yeah, I imagine that this part used to actually be fully streamed.
Yeah, it would used to be full streams, but we decided to add a little break here, so you can get a little break, so it's not all the way to the end.
A minute straight of 255 BPM streaming would be rough, especially for round of 16. But yeah, you get a little bit of a break there. You get a little bit of mercy from the map pool selectors. Don't expect that moving forward.
Yeah.
And an abrupt end, but that's a very repetitive song. And it's a very repetitive map. It just kind of tests the one thing, does it for the whole 2 minutes, and you get in, you get out. That's kind of how speed goes these days.
Yeah. Next up for Rice 2, we have Rapid House, Das Leben nach dem Tode. This is our co-stream pick by level 51. We're gonna see a little bit of an increase in BPM, going up by 7 here. Not too much, but I think a lot of the difficulty is gonna be, this one is a little bit more dense and has a little bit less breaks, so it's gonna be just more intense overall. But
yeah, I think the big thing, the most notable difference, it's only a 7 BPM increase, like you said. It is definitely denser, but I think the most important thing to note is that this is almost a minute longer than last week's, or the last round's chord streaming pick. You do get a little bit of a break there, but it's going to have a similar structure where it's just dense chord stream for most of the time with very few breaks, slightly higher BPM, and you have to do it for longer. So stamina is definitely going to be a little bit more of an issue on this one than it was for round of 32.
Yeah, it is a little bit longer. Definitely going to see. But we do see these streams a bunch of double stairs here with these like little jump trill patterns in between here. And here's the little break that you'll get here, at least.
Yeah, they're not so mean, but it's not like this lasts very long.
Then we have a little build up here where we have some trills with a few small brackets in there, but that shouldn't be too crazy to play at least. And here we go.
Yeah, for sure. Especially not compared to the main brunt of the chart with these dense chord streams. Hard to say much else other than it's chord streams for 2.5 minutes, but you know, I think when it comes to these kinds of charts, that's really what you're looking for. It's a very straightforward test. Are you capable of playing chord stream at this density, at this speed? And do you have the stamina to hold on to it for the whole 2.5 minutes?
Yeah. We do also see OD 8.3, so it is a little bit more tricky than your usual OD 8, so tiny bit higher. So
yeah,
you're gonna really see accuracy battles here. Gonna matter a lot, and as well as combo breaks.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited to see some of those winners bracket matches on something like this, where the players are very confident in their ability to play a dense chord stream like this. I could absolutely see this going down to a 4-way full combo, or even V1SS. That's the kind of thing that you'd look for in a chart like this.
Yeah. Next up we have Rise Free here. This is Genkiha Fading Star Banshee remix. This is our chord stream pick for this poll.
Not chord stream.
Oh, chord jack of the.
I've been mixing up the word chord stream and chord jack this whole weekend. So
amazing. We do see a 7 BPM increase here as well. So same as the last one. This one is actually pretty light in comparison to like what you would imagine for chord jack pack. Ugh. Yeah, but it's gonna be quite tricky, honestly, because it's pretty fast for round of 16. I want to say.
Yeah, I mean 117 definitely a little faster. I think like the density is not too bad for this. I wouldn't necessarily say it's any notably denser than our pick last round. It does have a little bit more of consistency as far as like the jack patterns last longer, and you'll be in this like jack motion for like a significant amount of time more than you would have on Rise 3 from round to 32. But also the patterns are a lot less one-handed in this. You have to really read through some of these, and that's kind of in some cases like the density is going to make it easier for some people, and then on the other hand, the constant two-handed nature of the patterns in general is probably going to cause another set of people to have some issues holding on. And this section in particular has a little bit of a funny rhythm break. Has those
it does have 1/3 now. It does have a couple of 1/3 throughout, so that's gonna be a little bit tricky. You're gonna have to adjust to those whenever they come. So it's not all 1/4. There will be these small 1/3. Yeah, I want to say this one it feels like a very flowy chord jack pick this week. You're gonna see these stair patterns that go back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, unrelated to the map itself, but this is a very unassuming song for how dense this does get towards the end. We're seeing quints here at the end as part of these jack patterns, and that just gets so heavy to read through.
Yeah, definitely. Right here at the end, this is gonna be the main density part, where the jacks are not like super complicated in complexity, but they'll be a little bit more dense. That's for sure.
But I think this is going to be pretty popular. I mean, chord jack charts are always pretty popular, I think, among the Rise players. They're straightforward, easy to get good accuracy on, just kind of something you can sink your teeth into pretty easily. But that's pretty much the end of our straightforward Rise picks. We've got 2 more left, and we're going to start with Rise 4, Junglist Acid, and OS Original from CWC last year. And this is going to be our technical pick. This is going to have a lot of tricky patterns like bursts, and you can already see those mini jack patterns coming through. There isn't a lot of consistency as far as like constant notes. There's a lot of gaps between what is happening here, just, kind of a result of the song structure itself. But because of that, you have a lot of stop and go motions throughout this map that kind of cause you to. It can make things a little bit more difficult to just autopilot, and especially on a map like this, you really will get your mental state stopped a lot, and needing to get back into the right mental state for mini jacks and bursts that are as difficult as these can be really tough to handle, especially with the tournament nerves that some of these players are gonna have.
Yeah, I think it also kind of follows up a little bit on the last week where we had a lot of tricky snaps and stuff. We're gonna see a bunch of snaps on this one, at least. A little bit tricky rhythms. Not as much as last week. We're gonna have a little bit more focus this week on the general tricky patterns and bursts, but they're definitely still here.
Definitely are. You get a little bit of a break section. Not the easiest to get accuracy on. You get a little bit of relief with accuracy on this with the OD. 7.8 slightly lower than what you may normally have, but 7.8 is still high compared to a few things, and is not going to be the easiest to hold on to accuracy, especially with some of these rhythmic complexities that come around. You can see some of those flams and bursts that are going to really test your ability to hit them accurately.
Yeah, some super tricky bursts there. And now we get into some jacks. Before we get into some more tricky bursts. Yeah. I think this one is gonna be really tricky for some teams, especially. So this might be a contender for a ban. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I do want to mention that pattern right there. I think that's the only triple jack in the whole chart, and it comes after doing mini jacks descending down your hand. I've never hit that pattern in my life. I don't know how to do it.
I think that's kind of what this map is all about. It's gonna have these crazy patterns where you're really gonna have to just practice them a lot more than your straightforward picks.
Yeah, having those bursts into mini jacks is gonna throw a lot of people off, I think.
Yeah. So next up, we have our Rise 5. This is Curiosity by Toromaro. I'm by Yi here. This is our mixed Rise pick. We're gonna see a little bit of everything, but we're especially gonna see, I think, quite a bit of jacks. They're pretty constant here throughout the map. You'll see, but there are some pretty tricky burst and speed sections as well as some code streams throughout.
Yeah, what this actually kind of felt like when I was playing through it was that there's a lot of sections where it's 148 BPM chord stream, but there's mini jacks inside of it. That's how it felt playing. Now, what I kind of expect to happen is to see outside of these bursts, you can see here, when it comes to those patterns where it's just oh, this feels like chord jack, but there's a mini jack every now and again within the patterns. I feel like that's going to be a playground for a lot of very high physicality teams to be 148 BPM jacks. I'm playing this like it's chord jacks. And
yeah,
I'm really interested to see how good the accuracy could be from some of these teams because of that.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna see pretty high accuracy on this thing, with this map, but there is also a lot of breaks throughout, so it's not like you're gonna be getting too tired here. You get breaks to reset yourself, so I think this team map is gonna be pretty popular for all teams, I feel like.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening, and map's not too long, less than 2 minutes, 1 minute and 53 seconds. I want to say this is actually the shortest map in the pool. And it is. I had to double check that. But yeah, 1 minute and 53 seconds, so it'll be over pretty quickly, and you don't really get much of a break anywhere. It just kind of keeps hitting you with new patterns, keeps that chord jack, keeps burst coming through, and really hits you with those jack patterns, especially in that middle section there. But gonna be a quick one, gonna be in and out there on the final Rice pick of our pool.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into our long note 1 pick here, our inverse map. This is gonna be Xishang Furen cut version by Phoenix Legends. Hopefully I said that right. This is our long note inverse pick. You're gonna see this map is gonna be actually a little bit more coordination heavy than the last week. And you're really gonna feel the stamina on this one. It's gonna have like not that many breaks throughout, so it's pretty long as well.
Yeah, almost 3 minutes having to hold on to that inverse. That's going to be mentally draining. I know that when I'm playing 4K and I have a map like that's kind of slow like this and requires a lot of focus, I get so tired. Doesn't matter how low the physicality is. It is difficult to keep your mind ready to hit some of these inverse patterns, especially when you have like one hand like split finger inverse. I find that to be one of the most difficult patterns ever, and this just is chock full of that stuff.
Yeah, now we're really gonna get into it here. We're gonna see these like super tricky. There are still a couple of like trickier patterns, a little bit faster, and you're gonna see the full inverse. Just super tricky two-handed inverse all throughout this section. It's almost like a little bit jacklight, but you gotta hold down to all the other columns at the same time. So it's gonna be very tricky. Yeah.
Yeah,
not
you can
really
see
gonna
the
get a break,
release is
yeah.
actually getting a little bit more difficult in this section here, where you have like longer gaps between some of the notes. And just need to be able to keep yourself focused on that. It does look like a lot of them are kind of circumvented, where it just has a regular note. So even if you don't like release at the right time, you'll still probably be okay. But there are a few that are definitely going to need some release focus from your players here.
Yeah, and it's just gonna keep going. Yeah, so I think this map is gonna be really all about keeping your focus, because if you get lost, it's kind of hard to get back into this.
Yeah, not to mention getting lost in an inverse chart. It almost feels like more demoralizing than anything, because you like let go of 2 or 3 lanes and you will just see the LNs dimmed out for that whole time that you were supposed to be holding down on them, and it goes further into what I was mentioning, that mental stamina that can be really difficult to hold on to with an inverse chart like this, especially going on 3 minutes.
Yeah. Here we see the ending. I do feel like this is probably gonna be a little bit popular, maybe, either as a ban or as a pick.
I mean, that's kind of what we saw from LN1 from round of 32. So
yeah, I think we'll kind of see much like the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But getting out of the inverse and moving on to our next long note pick, our density pick, Nekomira No Night More Soul. And nice difficulty name. Like I said, density pick 165 DPM, OD6. Not too much difficulty in terms of accuracy overall for these long notes, but it does bump the speed up a little. Not a little bit, 25 BPM. You got a little bit of a boost to that speed that you're going to have to keep up with for this density pick.
Yeah, you're gonna also see, as I said last week as well, the long notes are gonna be pretty long for what you would expect for a density pick. At least last year they would be kind of race-like, but we have some pretty long note patterns here throughout as well. We do have a little break here, so.
A little bit of a break. You got those outside columns. Oh, there is a pattern coming up that as soon as I got to the pattern, I quit out. I think there's like an outside finger trills. If I'm thinking of I don't know when they come up, but I know they're around and they're so difficult.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna this one actually is like pretty tricky on the long notes side, on like coordination and stuff. Even though it is a long note density pick. So
that's what I'm talking about. Those anchors on the outside columns are so difficult to coordinate properly. So you have a little bit more difficulty than just density. You gotta make sure you can get through the proper LN coordination needed to get through those anchors.
Yeah, but you will see it's gonna be mostly focused on the density, and it's gonna have the largest density on the long note side of the pool. Definitely. Just all of the columns are filled here almost with just streams.
Yeah, that density only increases as the map goes on. We got this ending that gets super dense and just keeps going. Only a few hundred notes left here, and it slows down a little bit right before the end, so kind of your expected LN density pick.
Yep. Next up, here we have long note 3, and this is gonna be Asaka Kagutsu's.
Kagutsuchi, I think.
Yeah, Kagutsuchi. This is a long note mix map. It's actually gonna have almost all long note skill sets. You're gonna see everything in this map. It's gonna be really tricky. You'll see a little bit of coordination here in the start.
Yeah, that intro is kind of brutal with the coordination patterns there.
Yeah, but you'll also see an inverse section later, as well as a little bit of long note density, and some small long note tech patterns once in a while. So this is gonna
kind of what you gotta expect from your mixed LN pick. Just gotta have a little bit of everything. You can see the density start to pick up here.
Yeah. Here we get into the stream section. You're gonna have this long note streams while you're holding down at least one long note here. Just super fast. Yeah. You're gonna see these stair patterns coming around once in a while. They might be tricky for some people because they're not all the same length. Getting into a little bit of coordination here before we get into the break section, quote unquote. This is gonna be our inverse section.
Ah, yes, the break. I think people are gonna miss more in this section than in the other sections. I'm
yeah,
not
this
gonna
part
lie.
is really hard. Yeah, with the outer column.
Five column inverse with those notes just in the empty columns is really difficult to coordinate.
Yeah. And then we're gonna back into it, yeah. We see the density pick up once again. This is gonna be a little bit shorter long note, so this section is gonna be overall a little bit easier than what you saw earlier. But it does pick up here again for the ending. See this big stair pattern. These sweeps going across the screen here.
Yeah, absolutely. Gets that density up just a little bit as we get to the final bit. Another five column inverse there, but that one a little bit more straightforward. Doesn't have the notes in the empty column, so should be able to get through that ending pretty easy.
Yeah. Next up, we have our hybrid map here, Hybrid 1. Generic hybrid. This is gonna be Kotono Friendship, cut version, of course, by Kobe. This is gonna be very intense, I think, for players. You're gonna have these long notes pretty much going all times, except for like one little section, but you're gonna have these rice notes going along with them as well all the time.
Yeah, definitely going to have some sections that play similar to like an LN density pick, but you got those rice notes in between everything. They kind of just mess you up a little bit.
Yeah. As you can see here, we're gonna have a little... It starts out with a little break before it really gets into it, but it's gonna just keep going, so it's not like the break sections are too easy here either.
Yeah, this not the shortest map in the world either. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So you do have to keep it up for quite a bit, even with a few breaks that let you catch your breath a little bit, but you get more of those long note patterns. And this is kind of what we're looking at when we say, you know, a little bit of coordination, a little bit of that LN density feel, just with the rice notes in there to really mess you up.
Yeah, gonna have like these small streams in there, like small free note streams going in here. Gonna be a little bit tricky maybe. Then we get into a little break section once again. Oh, never mind.
Not a break section.
Not a break section.
Get an interlude here.
Interlude, yeah. Here we have our little right section here. You're gonna see these just like diamond pattern brackets on here. And then we have the build up for the last chorus, and that's gonna be very similar to the one before.
Yeah, I mean, they're all the same choruses. There's
Yeah.
a little bit of swapping patterns a little bit. You can see actually there are a couple of tricky like symmetrical patterns throughout this chorus, which despite looking nice can be really difficult to handle.
Yeah, definitely gonna be a little bit tricky on the long note side here, I think. For players who are not as confident with them for the hybrid.
Yeah, but that's going to be our first hybrid there. Friendship, 2 words. We'll get into our second hybrid here, and this one's going to be more of a technical hybrid. It's a less I pronounced this so wrong when I introduced it last in 4Q World Cup. Les Cadences Magique is all I'm going to say, which is bad because this was my map for that tournament. But like I said, technical hybrid, you can already see kind of those sweepy long note patterns in the intro. Very difficult to hit properly, by the way. And those kinds of patterns just are around the whole time. You'll see these sweepy long notes in the middle of like Jackie Rice patterns in the entire map. And it's just so hard to coordinate with the accuracy and with the jacks themselves. Transitioning from just the jack into like a sweep is not something that I consider fun to try and do well.
Yeah, you almost like feel like you have these like breaks that kind of stop and go, and they're actually gonna be kind of tricky and annoying to play a little bit because you're gonna be in like get into the patterns, and then you're gonna have to stop, and then you're gonna have to get into them again. You just have these tricky bursts all throughout.
Yeah, not to mention that a lot of these Allen patterns are more heavily focused on like the coordination aspect compared to what we saw from Hybrid 1. So this is definitely going to be a little bit more in a long note player's wheelhouse for the most part, especially if you're comfortable with that kind of coordination. And this ending, I know we're in the break right now, but get ready for this ending. There is some ridiculous stuff. If you remember the song from Forky, there are some 1/5 patterns, so you get some funny rhythms to deal with, and that all has like these weird coordination LNs to deal with around it all too. So it just adds an extra layer of difficulty.
Yeah, it definitely took us a little bit to get the difficulty right on this one, just because of how crazy the song is to map for a technical hybrid here. Here we go. You're gonna see these tricky 1/5 patterns, soup, as well as some grace notes. It's gonna be very tricky to act here.
Yeah, again, like I said, 1/5 patterns on some of those sweepy long notes, and it only gets denser in this second part of it, and the long notes start getting extended more, so you're gonna have to have all of your focus ready for this ending section.
Yeah, I feel like this one is like more tricky than it looks, because you can look at it and then see that there isn't too much going on, but there's actually, it's really tricky. Yeah. And now we have a mini tiebreaker map here coming up, our hybrid 3. This is gonna be Copy Fox by Katagiri. This is a map by Stan. It's gonna be once again, like last week, we're gonna have a little bit of everything, but you're gonna definitely feel that, you know, we have tried to keep the hybrid part really intense as well. Gonna have the streams starting off.
Yeah, I mean, we had Hybrid 3 last week with a tiebreaker light. This one is, again, a tiebreaker light for the round of 16. So it is the longest map in the regular pool, 3 minutes and 26 seconds long. So gonna have to keep it up for a while, and has kind of, not necessarily the same structure, but does have a similar structure where it has like these hybridy sections with some sweepy long notes, and then we've got that some awkward coordination with some of these patterns, but a lot of this first like 2/3 is going to be pretty heavily interweaving the rice patterns with these tricky long notes, and the ending hits you with very dense long notes, so that's something to watch out for.
You do see these like little tech sections in here. There is quite a bit of long note tech and just rice tech in this map. You're gonna definitely see. Very tricky patterns here. You see these big trills with some mini jacks and going in while you hold on to some long notes. Gonna be very tricky to get a good score on, definitely.
Definitely is. In this section, I always have trouble with just reading through some of those long note trills. Feels more difficult than it probably is, as someone who does not play 7 key very much.
Yeah, and now we have speed up here a little bit. We're a little bit of a lower BPM section for the tag. Gonna speed back up, and now we're gonna get back into it. You're gonna have these burst into these long notes you're gonna have to hold on to and release at the right time, as well as some flams.
Yeah, an OD7, not terribly high, but higher than the other 2 hybrids, so accuracy is going to be a little bit more important, especially when it comes to those flams that we were just seeing, and we're continuing to see here, but get a little bit of a break, and you can already kind of hear and see in the map that we're transitioning into a fully dense LN section that is so difficult.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna be one of the harder parts of the map, for sure. We're gonna have this dense long note section, but it's not fully long note. You're gonna see quite a few rise patterns in here that are actually gonna be pretty tricky. It's gonna be a little annoying to play a little bit.
Certainly is true. Still got about 100,000 points left as we transition out of that section, get a little bit of a hardstyle section of this map where I think these patterns are slightly easier, but you still got to make sure that you're keeping yourself focused. Some of those can be difficult to hold on to the combo despite maybe being easier on the accuracy side.
Yeah, and there we go. That was a hybrid free map. And next up we have our tiebreaker map. And we do have a video.
Oh boy, this tiebreaker.
This is gonna be Deity Murder feat. Lahi by Reek. A map by Critical Style. This one is gonna be super tricky. They're gonna definitely get into the quarterfinals level a little bit. We already saw a little bit of a tricky coordination intro there. And we're gonna see a little bit of a break with some smaller bursts here until we really start getting into the build-up here.
Yeah, build-up kind of takes a little bit to get going, but as soon as it does, you will feel it. It gets really hard really fast. It's 5.5 minutes, and we have broached 7-star status in round of 16 already, so this difficulty really pushing it. I mean, if we're looking at a map as far as like round of 16 goes, this is kind of what you need to expect from like a tiebreaker map in general, where this map should be deciding who, like if a match is so close that it goes to tiebreaker, the tiebreaker needs to determine what team is overall stronger. And in this case, this does it by being significantly harder than everything else in the pool. Making sure that whoever is making it to that quarterfinals, whether it's on the winner side or loser side, is the more deserving team to be playing in that more difficult pool that will be coming up for the quarterfinals week.
Yeah, we see the first section here with these tricky long note bursts followed up by some rice bursts, so we're just gonna switch between the 2 sections. These are really tricky, honestly, to get it down right. Here we go, some more. This is gonna be that section mostly, but now we're gonna get into some more just regular long note density.
Yeah, kind of almost like broken LN density, where you have like jacky patterns at that 180 BPM, not 180, this is like 130-ish probably, but you have some bursts and some broken jump, I guess chord stream LN type patterns in the middle of it, so that can that can put a little bit of a damper on how difficult it is to, go about it.
Yeah. Here we go into the chord jack section here during the slowdown.
I am realizing I was right. It was 180, and it says in the storyboard because
it does say in the
I don't have eyes.
Yeah. Gonna get into some more techie rice bursts here. These actually also, once again, a little bit tricky, but they are lower the BPM, so not gonna be as crazy as the previous section.
Not quite as crazy. And it's not too long either, so you just gotta deal with that transition for a little bit, and then you get a little bit of a break here as we go into the final third of the map. And you can tell something's cooking on the horizon here.
Yeah, this is gonna be probably from now on. It's gonna be very little break. You're just gonna have, once it really starts picking up here, it's just gonna go for the rest of the map.
Yeah, you can see through that whole section the BPM increasing back up to 180. We got the transition just about to deliver what we need.
Yep. Here we get into our long note section here. Pretty tricky. You gotta just see these super big rolls here. And then after this section here, a little bit, we're gonna get into a little bit more long note mix. We're gonna see the rice come in here.
Yeah, we see kind of a mixture between those sweepy lines that we've already been seeing going into some bursty rice patterns in this ending.
Yeah.
Still got quite a bit of map to go though. We're already at 7,500 combo. We still have like 150,000 points to get through.
Yeah. And here, next we're gonna get into our just rice section. This is gonna be our code stream. Just big code stream here. Gonna see this go on for quite a little bit, and then right at the end here, we're gonna transition into a little bit of the tech that we saw earlier, tech patterns once again, with these fast rolls here. And tricky burst.
Yeah, some stop and go motion again, just to really hit your stamina when it's at its weakest. 9,000 combo into the map.
I hope we see some really close matches here until this point. This part is gonna be so true.
Yeah, I mean, we saw 2 tiebreakers in round of 32 when these teams are only going to get closer in skill level with the winners and losers bracket now decided for the round of 16. So I'm excited to see if we get to witness some more tiebreakers because these teams are just so good and so well matched this year.
Yeah. Super excited to see all the matches next week. As always, we always look for feedback of all the polls, so any feedback is always welcome in the Mappool channel. Also from the last round, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have the Mappool out, we'll have schedules out soon, and only other thing I have to say outside of Mappool is go buy your banners. They are out in this OSU store. All 32 teams have banners that you can buy. You can buy multiple banners and they will all show up on your profile as well. So if you want to buy all 32 banners, for some reason, you'll see all 32 show up on your profile. But outside of that, very excited for this map pool. Very excited to see all the players duke it out next weekend in the round of 16. Like I said, 8 teams will be eliminated from that losers bracket, so this map pool is going to be do or die for about half of these players. It's going to be really fun. Have anything else to say before we close out the weekend?
Good luck to all the players, and very excited to see what all the teams are going to be playing next week, and what the bands are going to be even.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, this week was already chaotic as it was, but it's gonna be a fun time next week to see how everything goes. So make sure you guys come back and witness the absolute majesty that is round of 16 for the 7Q World Cup. See you guys then.